The bell above the cafe door jangled, sharp and insistent, cutting through the hum of early morning Brooklyn. Riley's heart skipped. Every chime felt like a countdown to her arrival. She wiped her hands on her apron, the faint scent of roasted coffee clinging to her fingers, and glanced at the clock. 6:45 a.m. Right on time. Maya pushed through the door, her leather jacket creaking softly, her dark curls catching the first rays of sunlight spilling through the windows. She didn't look up, not right away, just slid into her usual corner booth with a notebook and a battered paperback. Riley's chest tightened. 2 years of serving Maya's black coffee, 2 years of stolen glances, and still she felt invisible. I thought she barely noticed me, Riley told herself, her breath hitching as she ground fresh beans, the grinder's low growl drowning out her thoughts. "Morning, Maya," Riley called, forcing her voice to stay steady. She slid the steaming mug across the counter, her fingers brushing the edge of Maya's notebook. A brief electric shot through her. Maya's eyes flicked up, green and piercing, and for a moment Riley swore they held her captive. "Thanks, Riley," Maya said, her voice low, almost a whisper. She smiled, but it was quick, like a secret she wasn't ready to share. Riley's stomach flipped. She turned back to the espresso machine, her cheeks burning, the hiss of steam mirroring the chaos in her head. The cafe was quiet, save for the soft clink of cups and the distant rumble of a delivery truck. Riley busied herself wiping counters, but her eyes kept drifting to Maya. The way her pen scratched across the page, urgent, like she was chasing something. The way her lips parted slightly, lost in thought. Riley wondered what stories lived in that notebook, what worlds Maya built while the rest of Brooklyn woke up. She didn't know, couldn't know, that Maya's stories weren't just stories. They were confessions. And Riley was the heart of every one. Riley's life was small, contained. She'd grown up in a sleepy Ohio town, where being a lesbian meant whispers and sidelong glances. At 26, she'd fled to Brooklyn, chasing freedom, chasing herself. Now at 28, she poured coffee and dreamed of something bigger, something that felt like the ache in her chest when Maya walked through the door. But Maya was untouchable. A 32-year-old novelist with a cult following, her books raw and poetic, dissecting love and loss with a surgeon's precision. Riley had read them all, dog-earing pages that felt like they'd been written for her. Wishful thinking, she told herself. Today, though, something was off. Maya's usual focus was fractured. She'd stare at her notebook, then out the window, her fingers tapping restlessly. Riley caught her stealing glances, quick, darting looks that made Riley's pulse race. "Is she looking at me?" She shook it off, scrubbing a non-existent stain on the counter. "Don't be stupid." "Another coffee?" Riley asked, approaching Maya's booth. Her voice cracked, betraying her nerves. Maya's eyes snapped up, and for a second Riley saw something raw, unguarded. Fear. Longing. It was gone before she could name it. "Sure," Maya said, her voice softer than usual. She slid her mug forward, her fingers lingering on the handle. Riley reached for it and their hands brushed again. This time Maya didn't pull away. The contact was brief but deliberate, a silent question hanging in the air. Riley's breath caught, her heart hammering so loud she was sure Maya could hear it. The morning rush trickled in, breaking the moment. Riley retreated behind the counter, her mind spinning. She didn't see Maya slip a folded note into her notebook and leave it on the table, its edges worn from being opened and closed too many times. By noon, the cafe was a mess of spilled sugar and crumpled napkins. Riley was wiping down tables when she found it. Maya's notebook, left behind. Her heart sank. Maya never forgot anything. She picked it up, the leather cover warm under her fingers, and hesitated. Just open it. Give it back later. Curiosity won. She flipped to the first page. The words hit her like a punch. "She moves like a song I can't stop hearing. Her laugh, soft, unguarded, cracks me open. I write her into every story, hoping she'll see herself. Riley. My Riley." Riley's hands shook. She read it again, her breath shallow, the words blurring. "My Riley?" Her name in Maya's jagged handwriting felt like a confession. She flipped through the pages, sketches of her smile, her apron, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. Entire chapters of a woman who could only be her, woven into Maya's stories. The cafe spun around her, the air thick with the scent of coffee and betrayal. She's been writing about me all this time. Anger flared hot and sharp. Why didn't she say anything? But beneath it something softer bloomed. Hope, fragile and terrifying. Maya saw her. Not just saw her, felt her. Riley didn't hear the bell jangle again. Didn't see Maya rush back in, her face pale, her eyes wide with panic. Riley, Maya froze, seeing the notebook in Riley's hands. The air between them crackled, heavy with everything unsaid. I thought you barely noticed me, Riley whispered, her voice breaking. Maya stepped closer, her breath uneven. I noticed everything. The cafe was a blur. The clatter of dishes and low hum of conversation fading into static. Riley clutched Maya's notebook, her knuckles white, her heart a wild drumbeat in her chest. Maya stood frozen in the doorway, her leather jacket slung over one shoulder, her green eyes wide with something raw, fear, maybe, or regret. The air smelled of burnt espresso and rain-soaked asphalt from the street outside. The kind of morning that felt like it could break you open. Riley, Maya said, her voice low, almost drowned by the hiss of the espresso machine. She took a step forward, her boots scuffing the worn wooden floor. I didn't mean for you to find it like that. Riley's throat tightened. She wanted to scream, to demand why Maya had kept this secret, why she'd turned Riley's every glance, every laugh, into ink and paper without a word. But all she could manage was, you wrote about me. Her voice cracked, half accusation, half plea. Maya's lips parted, but no words came. She looked like she was unraveling, her usual cool confidence replaced by something fragile. I couldn't help it, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. You're in my head, Riley. Every day. Riley's breath hitched. She flipped the notebook open again, her fingers trembling as she found another passage. Her eyes catch the light like they're hiding a storm. I wonder what it's like to drown in them. Her cheeks burned. This is me, she said, thrusting the page toward Maya. You wrote this about me. Why didn't you just talk to me? Maya flinched like the words were a slap. I tried, she said, her voice breaking. God, Riley, I tried. But every time I looked at you, She stopped, her hands clenching at her sides. I was scared. Scared you'd laugh, or worse, that you wouldn't feel the same. The confession hung between them, heavy and electric. Riley's anger faltered, replaced by an ache she couldn't name. She thought of the mornings she'd spent memorizing Maya's hands, the way they curled around her coffee mug, the way her pen danced across the page. She'd thought it was one-sided, a quiet crush she'd bury under the grind of daily life. But now, standing here with Maya's words spilling out like a dam breaking, she felt exposed, seen in a way that made her skin prickle. I thought I was invisible, Riley said, her voice small. She set the notebook on the counter, her fingers lingering on its edges. 2 years, Maya. 2 years of you coming in here. And I thought you barely noticed me. Maya stepped closer, close enough that Riley could smell the faint leather of her jacket, the cedarwood of her perfume. I noticed everything, Maya said, her voice raw. The way you hum when you're nervous. The way you wipe the counter in circles when you're thinking. The way you look at me when you think I'm not watching. Riley's heart stuttered. She wanted to reach out, to close the gap between them, but fear held her back. What if this was a mistake? What if Maya's words were just that, words, not promises? The bell jangled again, and a group of regulars shuffled in, their laughter slicing through the tension. Riley turned away, her hands shaking as she grabbed a rag and started wiping the counter again. The motion automatic, grounding. Maya lingered, her eyes pleading, but Riley couldn't meet them. Not yet. The rest of the shift was torture. Maya stayed in her booth, her notebook untouched, her coffee growing cold. Riley moved through her tasks, pouring coffee, ringing up orders, smiling at customers, but her mind was a storm. Every glance at Maya fell to Rito. System. Maya felt exposed, her secret laid bare in Riley's hands. The notebook was a map of her heart. Every page a confession she hadn't dared speak aloud. She watched Riley from the corner booth, her pulse racing, knowing there was no going back now. Riley's hurt was palpable, a quiet storm brewing behind her eyes, and Maya hated herself for causing it. But there was something else in Riley's gaze, something that looked like hope, flickering like a candle in the wind. She stayed until closing, hoping for a chance to explain, to bridge the gap she'd created. When the last customer left, Riley locked the door and turned, her expression unreadable. The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant hum of Brooklyn traffic and the soft creak of the floor as Riley approached. "I'm sorry," Maya said, standing, her voice trembling. "I should have told you. I didn't know how." Riley's jaw tightened but her eyes softened. "You made me a character, Maya. A character. Do you know how that feels? To find out I'm not just me to you." "You're more than that," Maya said, stepping closer, her breath uneven. "You're everything. I wrote you because I couldn't stop thinking about you. I was a coward, Riley. I thought writing it was safe, that it wouldn't hurt you." Riley's laugh was bitter, but it cracked into something softer, like a sob she wouldn't let out. "It did hurt," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But not because of the writing. Because you didn't trust me enough to tell me." The words cut deep and Maya's chest ached. She reached out, hesitating, then let her hand fall. "I want to fix this," she said. "I want to try. If you'll let me." Riley looked at her, the weight of 2 years of unspoken feelings hanging between them. The cafe smelled of coffee and cleaning spray, the air heavy with possibility. Slowly she nodded just once and Maya's heart leapt. A fragile, fleeting hope that maybe, just maybe they could start again. The cafe's neon sign flickered off, casting the room in a dim, golden glow from the streetlights outside. Riley stood behind the counter, her hand still gripping the rag she'd been using to wipe it down, her knuckles pale. Maya's words echoed in her head, "You're everything." The air was thick with the scent of lemon cleaner and the faint bitterness of cooled coffee. But all Riley could focus on was the woman standing in front of her, vulnerable in a way Riley had never seen. Maya's usual armor, her sharp wit, her cool distance was gone, replaced by a nervous energy that made her look younger, almost fragile. Riley's chest ached with a mix of anger and something softer, something that scared her. She'd spent so long convincing herself Maya was out of reach, a fantasy she tucked away like a bookmark in one of Maya's novels. Now the pages were open, and Riley wasn't sure if she was ready to read them. "Why now?" Riley asked, her voice low, the words scraping her throat. "Why leave the notebook where I'd find it? Was it an accident? Or did you want me to know?" Maya's breath hitched, a soft sound that cut through the quiet. She ran a hand through her dark curls, her fingers trembling slightly. "I don't know," she admitted. "I've carried that notebook every day, like it was a piece of you I could keep close. Maybe I left it because I was tired of hiding, tired of being afraid." Riley's heart stuttered. She set the rag down, her movements slow, deliberate, like she was trying to ground herself in the familiar. The counter was cool under her palms, a stark contrast to the heat rising in her cheeks. "You don't get to do that," she said, her voice shaking. "You don't get to make me the center of your world on paper, and then act like I'm just your barista." Maya flinched, but she didn't look away. "You're not just anything," she said, stepping closer, her boots scuffing softly against the floor. "Riley, I've been coming here every morning because of you. Not the coffee, not the quiet. You. I wrote you into my stories because I couldn't say it out loud. I'm saying it now." The confession landed like a stone in still water, rippling through Riley's defenses. She wanted to push back, to protect the walls she'd built around her heart, but Maya's eyes, green, searching, pleading, made it impossible. Riley's throat tightened and she turned away, grabbing a stack of paper cups to restack, anything to keep her hands busy. "Say something," Maya whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the fridge in the corner. "Please." Riley paused, her fingers tightening around a cup until it crumpled slightly. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. "I've spent 2 years thinking you were this untouchable mystery. And now you're telling me I'm the reason you're here. It's too much, Maya." Maya nodded, her lips pressing into a thin line. "I know," she said. "I know I messed up. But I'm here, Riley. I'm not running anymore." The silence stretched, heavy and taut, broken only by the distant wail of a siren outside. Riley's mind raced, replaying every moment she dismissed as meaningless. The way Maya's fingers lingered when she handed her the coffee mug. The way her smile felt like a secret meant just for Riley. She told herself it was nothing, but now, with Maya's notebook burning a hole in her thoughts, she couldn't deny the truth. Maya had seen her. All along. Riley turned, meeting Maya's gaze. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You've written me into your world, but what about the real me? What do you want from me?" Maya's breath caught, and she took another step forward, close enough that Riley could smell the cedarwood of her perfume, feel the warmth radiating from her. "I want a chance," Maya said, her voice steady now like she'd found her footing. "A chance to know you, not just write you. To be brave enough to deserve you." Riley's heart pounded, a wild, unsteady rhythm. She wanted to believe it, wanted to let herself fall into the possibility of Maya's words. But trust was a fragile thing, and hers had been bruised. Still, there was something in Maya's eyes, a raw, aching hope, that made Riley want to try. "Okay," Riley said finally, her voice soft but firm. "But no more secrets. No more stories I don't get to read first." Maya's smile was small, tentative, but it lit up her face like the first rays of dawn. "Deal," she said, and for the first time Riley felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't invisible anymore. The cafe was dark now, the only light coming from the street lamps outside, casting long slanted shadows across the floor. Riley leaned against the counter, her arms crossed, her heart still racing from Maya's words. "Chance to know you." The air smelled of lingering coffee and the faint metallic tang of the mop bucket in the corner, but all Riley could focus on was Maya, her nervous hands, her green eyes catching the dim light like they held a storm inside. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, heavy as the Brooklyn night outside. Riley's mind churned. She'd spent so long building a life that felt safe. Predictable shifts at the cafe, quiet nights in her tiny apartment, her feelings for Maya locked away like a book she'd never open. Now Maya had torn the pages out, and Riley wasn't sure if she was ready to read the story they told. "You can't just drop this on me and expect everything to change," Riley said, her voice low, edged with frustration. She pushed off the counter, pacing a small circle, her sneakers squeaking faintly on the polished wood. "You wrote me as some muse, Maya. But I'm not a character. I'm real and I'm scared." Maya's face softened, but she didn't move closer, respecting the space Riley seemed to need. "I know," she said, her voice steady but laced with regret. "I never meant to make you feel like you weren't real. Writing you was my way of keeping you close, of understanding you. But I see you, Riley. I always have." Riley stopped pacing, her breath shallow. She wanted to believe it, wanted to let herself fall into the warmth of Maya's gaze. But the hurt still lingered, sharp as a paper cut. "Then why hide it?" she asked, her voice breaking. 2 years, Maya. 2 years of me thinking I was nothing to you." Maya's jaw tightened, and she took a tentative step forward, her boots soft against the floor. "I was scared," she admitted, her voice raw. "I've written about love my whole career, but living it? That's different. Every time I tried to tell you, I froze. I thought maybe if I wrote you, I could figure out how to be brave." The confession hit Riley like a gust of wind, stealing her breath. She thought of the passages in Maya's notebook, her smile as a spark in the dark. "I'd burn everything down just to keep it." Her cheeks flushed and she turned away, grabbing a broom from the corner, needing something to hold onto. The bristles scraped the floor, a rhythmic scratch that grounded her racing thoughts. "Say I give you this chance," Riley said, not looking up, her voice barely above the sound of the broom. "What does that look like? Coffee dates? Late night talks? Or do you just go back to writing me into your next book? Maya's laugh was soft, almost sad, cutting through the quiet. All of it, she said. Coffee dates, talks, fights, messy mornings, whatever you'll let me have. I don't want to write you anymore, Riley. I want to know you. Riley's grip tightened on the broom, her heart pounding so loud it drowned out the distant hum of the city. She thought of her life in Ohio, the years spent hiding who she was, the move to Brooklyn to find herself. She'd built walls to keep herself safe, but Maya's words were chipping away at them, each one a small persistent crack. She set the broom against the wall and turned to face Maya, her eyes searching. I'm not easy, she said, her voice firm but trembling. I'm not some poetic heroine you can write into a happy ending. I'm stubborn and I'm scared, and I don't know if I can trust this yet. Maya nodded, her expression open, unguarded. I don't want easy, she said. I want you. Stubborn, scared, all of it. The words settled into Riley's chest, warm and heavy, like a stone smoothed by a river. She took a step closer, close enough to catch the faint cedarwood scent of Maya's perfume, to see the way her lips parted slightly, waiting. Riley's hand twitched, wanting to reach out, but she held back, the space between them electric with possibility. Okay, Riley said finally, her voice soft but steady. Let's try. But slow, Maya. I need slow. Maya's smile was small, radiant, like the first light of dawn breaking through the cafe's windows. Slow's perfect, she said, and for the first time, Riley felt like she was more than a shadow in someone else's story. The cafe was silent now, the kind of quiet that felt like holding your breath. Riley stood a few feet from Maya, her heart a tangled knot of fear and hope. The air carried the faint scent of coffee grounds and the sharp tang of floor polish, grounding her in the familiar even as her world tilted. Maya's words, I want you, echoed in her mind, each syllable a spark that threatened to ignite something she wasn't sure she was ready for. Outside, Brooklyn hummed softly, the distant wail of a siren blending with the low rumble of late-night traffic. Riley's fingers twitched, itching to reach for something solid. A mug, a rag, anything to anchor her. Instead, she crossed her arms, her nails digging into her palms. Slow, she repeated, her voice firmer now, like she was trying to convince herself as much as Maya. I mean it. I'm not jumping into this like one of your novels. Maya nodded, her green eyes steady, catching the faint glow of the streetlights through the cafe's windows. I get it, she said, her voice soft but sure. No rushing. Just us figuring it out. Her lips curved into a half smile, tentative but warm, and Riley's chest tightened at the sight. She turned away, grabbing a stack of clean dishcloths to fold, needing the rhythm of routine to steady her. The fabric was soft under her fingers, worn from years of use, and the motion felt like a tether to the life she knew. But Maya was still there, standing quietly, her presence a weight Riley couldn't ignore. She thought of the notebook, the pages filled with her laugh, her nervous habits, the way she moved. It was overwhelming being seen so completely, so intimately without her consent. And yet, it was also intoxicating, knowing she'd been the center of Maya's world all along. Why me? Riley asked suddenly, her voice cutting through the silence. She set the cloths down, turning to face Maya, her eyes searching. You could have written about anyone. Why me? Maya's breath caught, a soft, uneven sound that filled the space between them. She stepped closer, her boots scuffing lightly on the floor, and Riley caught the faint cedarwood scent of her perfume, warm and grounding. Because you're real, Maya said, her voice low, almost reverent. You're not some polished character I made up. You're messy and kind and alive. Every time I came in here you made this place feel like home. I wrote you because I couldn't let you go. Riley's throat tightened, her eyes stinging. She wanted to push back, to argue that Maya didn't know her, not really. But the notebook said otherwise. Every detail, every stolen moment, was proof that Maya had been paying attention. Riley's heart pounded, a wild rhythm that matched the pulse of the city outside. She took a step closer, closing the gap between them, her sneakers silent on the wood. You should have told me, she said, her voice softer now, less accusation and more ache. I spent so long thinking I was invisible. Maya's eyes flickered with guilt, but she didn't look away. I know, she said. I was a coward. But I'm here now, Riley. I'm trying. The honesty in her voice was disarming, and Riley felt her walls tremble. She thought of her past. Hiding in Ohio, carving out a new life in Brooklyn, learning to love herself in a world that hadn't always loved her back. She'd fought for every piece of who she was, and now Maya was asking for a piece of her heart. It was terrifying, but it was also something Riley had wanted for longer than she'd admit. Okay, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We try. But I'm not a story, Maya. I'm not your muse. I'm just me. Maya's smile was small, radiant like a spark in the dark. That's more than enough, she said, and the words settled into Riley's chest, warm and heavy, like a promise she might just believe. Riley glanced at the clock, nearly midnight. I need to close up, she said, her tone shifting, practical but not cold. You sticking around? Maya nodded, her eyes bright. If you'll let me. Riley's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile. Help me mop then, she said, tossing Maya a rag. It was a small gesture, but it felt like a start. A real one, not just words on a page. The cafe was a cocoon of quiet. The only sounds the soft slosh of the mop against the floor, and the distant pulse of Brooklyn's nightlife filtering through the windows. Riley moved the mop in slow, deliberate strokes, the sharp scent of pine cleaner cutting through the lingering warmth of coffee in the air. Maya worked beside her, wiping down tables with a rag, her movements careful, almost reverent, like she was trying to prove she could fit into Riley's world. The dim streetlight cast their shadows long and wavering, two figures dancing around something unspoken. Riley's heart was still a mess, caught between the sting of Maya's secret and the pull of her confession. I'm trying, Maya had said, and Riley could see it now, the way Maya's hands hesitated before each wipe, the way her green eyes flicked toward Riley, searching for a sign. It was strange seeing Maya like this, stripped of her novelist's mystique, just a woman hoping for forgiveness. You're not bad at this, Riley said, breaking the silence, her voice light but edged with something real. She nodded at the table Maya was cleaning, its surface gleaming under the faint light. Didn't peg you for the manual labor type. Maya's laugh was soft, a low hum that warmed the air. I've got layers, she said, her tone teasing but her eyes serious. She set the rag down, leaning against the table, her leather jacket creaking faintly. You okay? With all this? Riley paused, the mop handle cool under her palms. She wanted to say yes to make it easy, but the truth was messier. I don't know, she admitted, her voice low, the words scraping her throat. I want to be. But it's a lot, Maya. Finding out I'm what, your inspiration? It's like I've been living in your head without knowing it. Maya's face tightened, a flicker of guilt crossing her features. I should have told you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I kept thinking I'd find the right moment, but I just kept writing instead. It was easier than risking you. Riley's chest ached, the weight of Maya's words pressing against her ribs. She set the mop against the wall, crossing her arms, her nails digging into her skin. Risking me, she echoed, her voice sharp. You think I'm that fragile? That I'd run from this? No, Maya said quickly, stepping closer, her boots soft on the floor. I was the one who was scared. Scared you'd see me as some creepy writer stalking her barista. Scared you wouldn't feel the same. The honesty hit Riley like a cold gust, stealing her breath. She thought of the notebook, the pages filled with her nervous habits, her quiet moments, her everything. It was overwhelming, but it was also proof that Maya had seen her, truly seen her, when Riley thought she was invisible. Her heart pounded, a steady beat that matched the hum of the city outside. I do feel it, Riley said, her voice barely audible, the admission slipping out before she could stop it. I've felt it for a while. That's why this hurts. Because I thought it was just me. Maya's eyes widened, a spark of hope lighting them up. She took another step, close enough that Riley could smell the cedarwood of her perfume, feel the warmth of her presence. It's not just you, Maya said, her voice steady now like she'd found her ground. It's never been just you. Riley's breath hitched, her eyes stinging. She wanted to close the gap, to let herself fall into this moment, but fear still lingered, a shadow she couldn't shake. She turned, grabbing a stack of chairs to stack on the tables, needing the familiar weight of routine. The chairs clattered softly, a grounding rhythm against the chaos in her chest. Maya watched her for a moment, then picked up another rag, joining her in the work. They moved in silence, the air thick with possibility, the only sounds the scrape of chairs and the faint buzz of the neon sign outside. When the last table was done, Riley turned, meeting Maya's gaze. "What now?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. Maya's smile was small, tentative, like a dawn breaking. "We talk," she said. "We take it one day at a time. No more notebooks. Just us." Riley nodded, her lips twitching into a smile she didn't fight. "Okay," she said. "But you're buying the coffee tomorrow." Maya's laugh was bright, a sound that felt like home. "Deal," she said, and Riley felt the first stirrings of something new, something real taking root. The cafe was nearly spotless now, the floor gleaming under the dim streetlight filtering through the windows. Riley leaned against the counter, her arms crossed, the air heavy with the scent of pine cleaner and the faint warmth of coffee that never quite left the place. Maya stood a few feet away, her rag draped over a chair, her green eyes catching the light like they held a secret she was finally ready to share. The silence between them was softer now, less jagged, but still charged with the weight of everything unsaid. Riley's heart was a live wire, sparking with every glance at Maya. She'd spent so long burying her feelings, convincing herself they were one-sided, that Maya was just a customer with a sharp smile and a leather jacket. Now, knowing she'd been the heart of Maya's stories, Riley felt exposed, but also seen in a way that made her skin hum. It was terrifying and exhilarating, like standing on the edge of a Brooklyn rooftop at dawn. "You're really here," Riley said, her voice low, almost lost in the hum of the fridge. "Not just in your notebook. Here with me." She shook her head, a small laugh escaping. "I keep waiting for this to feel like one of your stories." Maya's lips curved, a soft, unguarded smile that made Riley's chest ache. "It's better," Maya said, stepping closer, her boots scuffing softly on the floor. "Because it's real. You're real." Her voice was steady, but her hands fidgeted, betraying her nerves. Riley uncrossed her arms, her fingers brushing the edge of the counter, cool and solid under her touch. "Real's messy," she said, her tone half warning, half invitation. "I'm not some perfect character, Maya. I get mad. I shut down. I'm not always good at this feeling stuff." Maya nodded, her eyes never leaving Riley's. "I know," she said. "I've seen you. Grumpy mornings, spilled coffee, all of it. I wrote it because it's you. The messy parts, the real parts. That's what I fell for." The words hit Riley like a warm wave, loosening the knot in her chest. She thought of her life, hiding in Ohio, finding herself in Brooklyn, learning to love the parts of herself she'd once been afraid of. Maya's notebook had captured that, not just the surface but the heart of her, and it made Riley feel both vulnerable and powerful. She took a step closer, close enough to catch the cedarwood scent of Maya's perfume, to see the faint freckles across her nose. "So what's the next chapter?" Riley asked, her voice soft but steady, a challenge wrapped in a question. Maya's breath hitched, a small sound that filled the space between them. "We write it together," she said, her voice low, earnest. "No more secrets. Just you and me figuring it out. Coffee dates, late nights, arguments, whatever comes. I want it all." Riley's heart pounded, a wild rhythm that matched the pulse of the city outside. She wanted to push back, to protect herself, but Maya's eyes, open, hopeful, made it impossible. She thought of the mornings she'd spent watching Maya write, the way her heart had leapt at every glance. She'd thought it was nothing, but now she knew better. "Okay," Riley said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm serious about slow. I need time to trust this." Maya's smile was radiant, like the first light breaking over the Brooklyn skyline. "I've got time," she said, and the words felt like a promise, solid as the counter under Riley's hands. They finished closing up in silence, the clink of keys and the soft thud of the mop bucket the only sounds. When they stepped outside, the night air was cool, carrying the faint salt of the East River and the hum of distant traffic. Riley locked the door, the jangle of her keys grounding her, and turned to Maya. "Tomorrow," Riley said, her tone firm but warm. "You're here at 6. And you're buying." Maya laughed, a bright, unguarded sound that lit up the dark. "Wouldn't miss it," she said, and Riley felt something shift. A new page turning, one they'd write together. The Brooklyn night wrapped around them as they stepped out of the cafe, the air crisp with the faint bite of autumn and the distant scent of the East River. Riley's keys jangled in her hand, a familiar weight as she locked the door, the click echoing in the quiet street. Maya stood beside her, her leather jacket catching the glow of a nearby street lamp, her green eyes soft but steady, like they were holding on to Riley even from a few feet away. The city hummed around them, car horns, a faint laugh from a bar down the block, but the space between them felt like its own world, fragile and new. Riley's heart was still racing, a quiet storm that hadn't settled since she'd found Maya's notebook. The words she'd read, "Her laugh cracks me open," lingered like a song she couldn't shake. She'd spent 2 years thinking Maya barely noticed her, just a barista serving coffee to a writer lost in her own world. Now, knowing she was the star of Maya's stories, Riley felt exposed but also alive, like she'd been given a role she hadn't auditioned for but desperately wanted to play. "You meant it, didn't you?" Riley asked, her voice low, cutting through the night air. She turned to Maya, her sneakers scuffing the pavement. "All of it. The notebook, the feelings, everything." Maya nodded, her breath visible in the cool air. A soft puff that dissipated quickly. "Every word," she said, her voice steady but thick with emotion. "I wrote you because I couldn't say it. But I'm saying it now, Riley. I'm in this." Riley's chest tightened, a mix of fear and hope twisting together. She thought of her journey, leaving Ohio's stifling whispers, carving out a life in Brooklyn where she could be herself, a lesbian who didn't have to hide. She'd built walls to protect that freedom, but Maya's confession was a crack in them, letting light pour through. It was terrifying, but it was also everything she'd wanted without knowing it. She took a step closer, close enough to catch the cedarwood warmth of Maya's perfume, to see the way her lips parted slightly, waiting. "I'm in too," Riley said, her voice soft but sure, the words feeling like a leap. "But it's not a story, Maya. It's us. And I need it to be real." Maya's smile was radiant, like the city skyline at dawn, full of promise. "It's real," she said, reaching out, her fingers brushing Riley's hand, a touch that sent a spark through her. "You're real. And I'm not going anywhere." The contact was brief, but it lingered, warm and electric, as they started walking down the street. The city pulsed around them, alive with possibility, and Riley felt something shift. A new chapter beginning, not in a notebook but in the space between them. They stopped at a corner diner, the neon sign buzzing softly, and shared a coffee, the first of many. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, messy and true. Months later, at a small Brooklyn bookshop, Maya read from her latest novel, her voice steady, her eyes finding Riley in the crowd. The story wasn't about Riley this time. It was about them, a love built on trust, not secrets. Riley smiled, her heart full, knowing she wasn't just a character anymore. She was the co-author of their story, one they'd write together, one day, one coffee, one real moment at a time.